Welcome back to Maker's Journey Workshop. I'm Benjamin Davies, and today we're making wing nuts. You'll need two things for this project. 5/8 round bar, that's what we're going to start with. I highly recommend round bar for this, and I'll show you why I prefer it later. You can use square bar if that's what you got though. And a guillotine tool with flat dies. That's really going to be helpful to you, especially if you've got one of these that have a lot of surface area you can work off of. If not, I'm sure there's other workarounds, but I'm going to show you how to make it on this guy today. Hey, real quick, if you're new to our channel, my name is Benjamin Davies. We're right in the middle of our 30 for 30. If you want to know more about the 30 for 30, go check out this video right here. For now, let's get back to our show. Thank y'all for being here. I love that. It's so cool to see all these little facets going every which way. All right, so we've gotten it this far, and we've really made those ears jump out, right? Take your time, make sure that you've got plenty of heat in this because heat's gonna be your friend. And what we're doing is we're lining them up at a 45-degree angle, and we're just biting off a piece at a time with our flat ties in the guillotine tool. It's pretty cool to think that you can do this without a hydraulic press, without a power hammer. It'd go much faster, it'd be much easier, it'd be a quicker process for sure. But understanding how it works and being able to actually produce these types of things by hand is only going to translate and make you that much quicker whenever you do build up to those power forging tools. So don't lament, don't be frustrated now if you don't have any of those tools, because this stuff all translates and it's like putting it in hyper gear. So take your time, learn these processes correctly, because it's just going to make that much of a bigger difference whenever you do get those power forging tools. All right, so I'm going to cheat a little bit here at this next step, and I'm going to use my torch. I think I need to get an induction forge as much as I use my torch. I think that'd be a pretty handy tool. And we're going to do a little bit of chisel work here. We're going to use our round blunt chisel, and we're going to go real slow. We're going to focus in the middle, and we're going to try to push that material down. Several heats, several hammer blows, several heats, many hammer blows, and taking our time to make sure, because that piece is so thin, as we try to upset that metal down, it's going to want to go off to the left or the right. And that might happen, and there's ways to fix that too. But right now, we're just going to start right here. All right, we got this guy all forged up. Kind of like, looks like something you'd see at a theme park. Anyways, we took our time right there, but we did get a little bit wonky. There's a couple ways you can clean this up. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to heat it up with a torch and take some adjustable, and take an adjustable wrench to it and take my time to line it up. A big fear you might have at this point in the process is wrecking the piece, because we've got a lot of different facets and it's moving in a lot of different directions. And so we fear that if we hit it too hard, we're just going to totally ruin the piece. You can definitely get a rawhide or a wood mallet out and hit it over the stump and straighten it that way. And if you've got some precision, little tippy tap tap hammer blows, that means kind of like a jeweler. We're just kind of, you can definitely go through and straighten up at the anvil if that's your only choice too. I think I can fix most of this with an adjustable wrench. I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna let it cool, and then we're gonna drill it. All right, so I'm gonna wanna center punch this before I drill it, but it's a pretty tight space and my regular center punch won't fit in there. So I've got one of these progressive drifts that I showed you in our last video when we were making a bottle opener. And I'm pretty sure I made these guys out of 4140 years ago when I made them. And I'm just gonna actually sharpen the tip up and just enough to get a stamp. I think even if you had to, out of mild steel just for one little thing, you could sharpen something, get it hard enough just to get in there. Sometimes you just need a consumable tool that's gonna do the trick for just a minute or two. I wanna make sure, since it's such a small area, that I'm able to get my drill bit in there centered as possible, because I'll probably end up having to hand drill this also. This means I'm at less of an advantage as opposed to using the drill press. I don't have a great way to chuck this up there off the top of my head. And so that's the route I'll probably end up going. And so we're going to use a 1/4x20. That means it'll end up being able to receive a 1/4 inch bolt that has a threaded count of 20 threads per inch. All right, we got it drilled. Before I cut it, I'm gonna go ahead and do a little bit of file work. I might even cheat and go to the grinder. The grinder's gonna be really fast, so you might even want to take a file here and just try to even these little ears up. This one right here, a little bit bigger. Now, I was thinking about this in the shop. What would be a good way to line those up and file that? Because you're essentially gonna have to do that by hand, and that way you can line them up to be as symmetrical as possible. Now, there's two ways that I know of. One is you just do it a lot and you get really good at it. But I've not done a lot of file work myself, so I'm not great at it. Another way, and I don't have any in here today, but I think would be a good workaround for this, was once I got one ear to where I wanted it, I would have some Play-Doh and I would press that into the Play-Doh, and that would be my template. And then as you work your other ear, you can start to press it over top of it. And then once it finally fits, you'll know that you're pretty close. So press that first ear pretty deep, and then second ear once it fits. Coincidentally, I'm pretty sure we've got like 20 jugs of Play-Doh at the house, but here in the shop, don't have access to it. So, I think that'd be a great workaround. Just an idea. Give it a try. Maybe I'm wrong. And we're gonna do filing. I've got a finer cut file right here. We're going to clean up with it too. Something else to remember real quick whenever you're using files is the closer that you can get to your vise, the better. Because if you're trying to file these little ears off and you've got it choked up at the bottom, you've got flakes in it. Even if it's a thick piece, and it'll send some terrible sounds. But also, those sounds are an indicator that it's not cutting well, and you're just going to tear apart your file. So try to get as close to the vise as possible when you're filing these things, and that way it limitates the vibration and you're able to get a good cut off of it with your file. Limitates, whatever. Western North Carolina English, bear with me. All right, so I got them where I like them. They're not perfect, but they're pretty close, and I'll tell you why I stopped. So the reason I stopped is you can chase something like this forever, especially if you don't have a whole lot of time in with the file. If you're new and you just want to get practicing, go ahead. But I've done things like this in the past where I keep chasing one side and then I have to chase the other side. And before you know it, I have a threaded bolt and not a threaded wing nut. So determine what you're trying to do. If you're looking for perfection, if you're looking at getting good at this, make 10 of them. Do your file work. Hopefully by the time you get to 10, you've got a pretty good grasp on it. If you're just wanting to make one and you want it to look unique, but pretty close to perfect, that's okay. Stop there. Before we cut this guy away from the shank and we cut some threads into it, I'm going to go ahead and clean it up with the cut brush. And that way, again, I've got a good way to grip it, because once these things get small, it's hard to chuck them up, mag vices, whatever, and throw a knotted cut brush at it. You can throw it in the tumbler, sure. Throw bolts in it, throw it in the tumbler, walk away. That's a great idea. If you don't have that, the concrete mixer like we talk about in this video, if you don't have that yet, then this is just something you have to think about in the progression in which you do things. Last thing, always like softening my entries and exits with the countersink, but I'm not gonna be able to fit my countersink in on this side. So after I've cut my threads, I'm gonna come back in with a 5/16 and do what I call a kiss. I'm gonna come in and just tap it a little bit, enough to just deburr the edge and widen open a little bit. And on the back side, you can come in with a countersink because it'll be easy to get to. All right, let's polish it up, cut some threads, and we'll have a wing nut. Another thing I didn't mention about filing is you want to get rid of that little burr on the edge. Chasing that with the file, I almost feel like I'm prone to putting an edge on something that thin sometimes. So what I do instead is I try to get it as clean as I can without trying to come in at an aggressive angle, and then it usually comes off with the tumbling process or the cut brush, however you want. And just something to think about so you're not cutting, you know, some samurai edges on that thing. You notice I'm doing these quarter turns back. I'll turn about a half to 3/4, then I'll turn about a quarter back. And what that does, it breaks off the material you've cut out for threads already. So take your time. You don't want to just go straight through this like a drill, especially with a new bit, because it feels like it could just do it. This one's cutting really good, brand hammer new bit. Also, a little bit of oil never hurts. A little bit of cutting lube. Just gonna make life easier. Oh man, I can tell it's really going now. I'm out the bottom. And so once I get out the bottom, I like to ream it all the way through there. And that way, if there is any issues, it kind of cleans them up. And I think we got a wing nut. All right, so moment of truth. Man. I'm a little crooked, it's not perfect, doesn't go in there at a perfect 90-degree angle, which is a little frustrating, but that's the first wing nut I've ever made. All right, so let's talk about a couple takeaways. I'm pretty excited. What a cool little piece. First takeaway, Ben, you're supposed to be showing us how to make cool things that we can take and sell. You're 100% right. One of the most frustrating things about putting pieces together on a larger scale as you get into some cooler projects that are going to require joinery and like maybe some railings is a lot of times you finish off with some ugly bolts and things like that. It's kind of what you're stuck with unless you're going to go through and hot rivet a job on a site, or maybe make a cap cover that'll cover a post as you mount into some concrete or some wooded stair treads or whatever it is. And that's a little frustrating. And so this is about kind of encourage you to maybe search for your own hardware or make your own hardware. These little things can make or break a project. It's amazing how you can look at a project and 95% of it's beautiful, and then you see some ugly hardware that sticks out like a sore thumb, and it really diminishes the work and effort that you put into that project. So this is trying to get you thinking outside of the box. This is so cool. I would definitely reserve this for larger products, and I would definitely make sure that I charged for it. I've got more time and effort in this little wing nut than I do a bottle opener or some of our other projects. Like I said earlier in the video, if you had to make 100 of them, I'd definitely tool up. I'd find a better way to make sure that I'm drilling these things on center every time. And I bet there's some cool and creative workarounds for that. Just off the top of my head, one thing that I could do is maybe leave that shank a little bit lower, forge it square, and that way I can chuck it up in a drill press and come in perfectly center onto it good, and then cut it off when you're done with it. But other than that, man, it's a small thing. It's one of those projects where as you start, you kind of feel like this is worth scrapping because it's not going anywhere. But if you just take your time, the two biggest things, and they're basically the two steps that you're using to forge this anyways, are popping these little ears out. It kind of feels like from the first strike you messed up. But it's one of those things you need to take your time and make sure you got plenty of heat for it. And the second thing, as we are spreading that for our thread, that's a real easy one to mess up because you're gonna wanna race through it. It's hard to transition from heat and beat and trying to move the metal as quick as you can to taking your time with some of this bench style of work. And so the torch is really gonna be your friend there. If not, you're gonna be chucking up from the vise to the forge and losing a lot of your heat along your way there. I enjoyed this one. You should definitely get out there, try some of these. I'm thinking about some projects that we're gonna be working to conclude our 30 for 30 here next week. And I'm just trying to think of some fun joinery points that we can use for these projects. And this might be one of them, so you might want to practice. All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much for being here, and we'll see y'all tomorrow.